I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is my colleague, Forbes staff writer Zach Everson. Zach, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Brittany.
Your team has been looking at the fortunes of all presidential contenders, and you have found the net worth of Marianne Williamson, a Democratic presidential contender. Before we dive into that number, can you first tell us who is Marianne Williamson?
Marianne Williamson is a self-help author. She first came to fame in the early 90s when she wrote a book that got her on Oprah, which is, every author's dream, I guess, other than maybe to co-write a book with Oprah. So she got a lot of attention that way. She ran for president last time out when she really picked up some notoriety from the debate stage, saying things like she would beat Donald Trump with love. Needless to say, she did not. Somebody else beat Donald Trump with politics, actually. So she is running again this time out. She is challenging Joe Biden now as the incumbent.
Getting Oprah's attention, if you're an author, like you said, is every author's dream. I can imagine that's pretty lucrative, though. Point blank, how much is she worth, and what does her portfolio look like? What are some of those assets?
So we have her worth less than what she should be. We estimate her net value to be about $2.5 million. She doesn't own a home. She doesn't have any sort of business that's worth much beyond just the intellectual property to her books. It's mostly tied up in mutual fund investments, cash. She owns some individual stocks such as Apple, Home Depot, and Google, but it's very easy to liquidate. If she wanted to cash everything out, she could do so very easily.
Zach, I'm going to be honest with you. Math is not my strong suit, but you've reported that when she released her tax returns in 2020, she generated $7.5 million in revenue from 2013 to 2017. So 7.5 obviously is a lot higher than 2.5. Why is she not more wealthy?
That's an excellent question. From the best we can tell, looking at those tax returns, we could see the write-offs that she was taking. She is an extravagant spender. She spends a lot of money on travel, a lot of money on clothing, lifestyle. I think to have this image, it's expensive to be on this circuit. She certainly gets paid for her speeches, gets paid for her books, but spends a lot of money. And she's also spent a lot on, she ran for House, lost to Ted Lieu back about 15 years ago, or excuse me, 2014. And she spent a good chunk of change there. She lost, we're guessing, about $400,000 at least. And just based on estimates, we know at least $400,000. It could be more. And then she didn't spend as much on the last time out, but already this presidential presidential run, she's dropped $220,000 of loans, and she told us she does not expect to get it back. So, right there between those two races, that's $660,000 just like that.
You write that she has described one of her campaigns as being rather cavalier with spending money. You're just reporting that she basically is. Losing that amount of money is huge. So can you explain her past runs for office and what is she spending that money on?
Sure. Yeah, that was a quote from one of her books. She actually wrote a book on financial planning, which I certainly found interesting given her own not having as much as you'd expect. The quote was, "Perhaps we bought too much, saved too little, or were otherwise cavalier about money." And that certainly seems to be the case with her, especially in that 2014 campaign where she ended up, I think she came in fourth in the open primary, and put a sizable chunk out there. She was the biggest donor to her campaign. There's nothing you could point to as an easy reason for why she's investing this much in her current presidential campaign. It's not like she's going to have, based on past experience, it's not like she's going to have a book bonanza payoff that's going to make all the money worth it. She might experience a little bit of a spike. Her most famous book, A Return to Love, has been a solid earner now for 30 years. I think it sells like 20,000 copies a year, which is phenomenal for a book that old. She believes in her candidacy is the best reason we can see for it.